Hello everyone, welcome to episode 23 of Berry Fun Adventures. My name is Tanya and I'm coming to you from southeast Minnesota where my family and I run Firefly Berries, which is a fruit farm specializing in strawberries, Concord grapes, and naturally dyed yarn. So hello. It has been a while. It was not my intention for it to be quite so long, but things happen as they do. So I'll start here with a quick 5-minute update, or maybe less, hopefully, if I don't talk too much. So if you're not interested in my 5-minute update, you can fast forward to the yarn and fiber content. I will post the timestamp below. Anyway, I have not been to record an episode in a while. Actually, I did record an episode, but I was so tired when I did it that I just felt like my heart wasn't in it and I didn't feel good about posting it. So I never posted it, but we have been busy with lots of different things since I came to you last. The main thing that prevented me from podcasting was that I was dyeing a lot of yarn to get ready for Zombie Knitpocalypse, which was a retreat and marketplace that I vended at. It was the June 23rd through 25th, something like that, the last full weekend of June. And that was a lot of fun. And the main thing, I was dying so much that I ended up hurting myself a little bit and giving myself tendonitis, like in my elbow and down in my forearm. So I just couldn't knit. So I didn't really have a ton of content to share with you. And then strawberry season started. I had ZK, which was so much fun. It always is. I think this has been my 6th year that I've gone. Amy and Megan from the Stockinette Zombies here in Rochester do a fabulous job putting on a retreat. And I think there were like 170 attendees this year. Some of my favorite yarn people from across the United States come. We get to visit and catch up and go out to dinner together. I also did a natural dyeing class, which was a lot of fun. Everybody was so interested in what I had to share, which is so much fun because I love to talk about natural dyeing. And if any of you found me and this is your first episode since then, welcome. And what else happened? I wrote down a few things. Strawberry season here was horrible. We had so many weather issues we had late spring that was cool, and then we had hail, and we had frost, and we had heavy rains with extensive wind. It was so our strawberries did not do well. We were only open for like 3 days for you pick, and we didn't have any available for already picked because we had such a small and poor crop. So that was kind of a bummer, but yet it was really exhausting because even if we don't have strawberries, I still am in charge of communicating what's going on to the customers. So I did a lot more answering phone messages and updating Facebook and website and sending out emails. So it was kind of exhausting in a different sort of way. Normally I spend lots of hours out in the field picking berries, but this year it didn't quite happen that way. It was different. And finally, last but not least, a little over a week ago now, we adopted a new kitten. His name is Tobble Firefly, technically. Tobble is a character. If any of you have not read the series, The Endling by Catherine Applegate, I think I've talked about it on here before in past episodes. It is a fabulous children's series, and Tobble is the main character's best friend, and he's very loyal and also very feisty, which is exactly what our kitten is. But Tabo was actually born on our porch the Friday before Mother's Day, and we have 2 outdoor cats. Well, one that adopted us last year when she had a litter of kittens in our machine shed. One of those kittens actually survived. We didn't know she had even had kittens until we saw them in the fall, and her and her kitten, we call them Marshmallow and S'mores because Marshmallow is all white except for a black tail, and S'mores is a calico, mostly white but also with some tabby markings in her. Anyway, in the spring, we have a fabulous organization in Rochester called Camp Companion, and they help with TNR, which means trap, neuter, and release. And basically what they do is they work with farmers that have feral cats, which is what Marshmallow and S'mores became, and they help us trap them, spay them, and then they can come back. Well, in the spring, S'mores evaded capture, and we only got Marshmallow spayed, so she ended up getting pregnant and having 2 kittens. Her and Marshmallow were arguing over where kittens should be for safety, and in the process of moving them back and forth, one of them did not make it, but Tobble did, and so we called Camp Companion some friends and contacts there, and one of the great volunteers bottle fed him from the time he was about 2 days old until he was ready for adoption, which was a week and a half ago. And I was able to convince my husband that we needed another cat, or I wanted another cat, and so Tobble came to live with us. And so he is not quite 3 pounds yet. He's 10 weeks now. But he gets into everything. He is mischief. In fact, I started to get ready, and I thought I had tired him out, and I thought, oh, he's asleep underneath my bench. And so I started to gather stuff, and then he, of course, woke up, and he was in the middle of everything, so he's downstairs right now playing with his human brothers. So anyway, that's a lot. That's all that's happened. And fortunately, in the last couple weeks, my injury has been feeling better because I have let it rest, and I haven't been dying as much, and so I have some knitting to share. So after that update, let's get to some finished objects. Now these are the 3 that I'm going to show you. I think I made like a cat blanket. I might have made a few other things since I came to you last. I can't remember. But I want to show you 3 in particular because these are 3 that I had in my booth at ZK, and I loved all the patterns. And they all turned out really, really great. So the first one I have showed you before is the Spring To-It Cowl. And this is by Kristen Finley. So I'm going to kind of show you here. So it is, I still have my little sample tags on from the show, but they have created this really great pattern that's simple, but yet feels really nice and looks really nice. So it's some ribbing, stripes, a lace pattern, and then you repeat it through with different colors and whatnot. But I really like it because it's sort of like I made it in my yak sock base, which is a yak merino nylon blend. Excuse me. And it's nice and drapey at the gauge at which I made it, but yet it's not too loose. Sometimes I don't like cowls that are super drapey around my neck, because living in Minnesota, I really want them to be warm. You know, I mean, I suppose if you just wanted some decorative cowl or something, I can see doing that. But for me, I like the function of it. So let me put it on here and I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna mess up my already messy hair. So you see, it's nice, and I think maybe it's because it's longer too, but it's nice and drapey, and yet it kind of still, I can feel that it's going to keep my neck warm. And the other thing I like about it, it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. So it uses about 35, I want to say it was about 35 grams of fingering weight yarn in each of the colors. So if you have made like a pair of socks or something, and you have leftovers, you could very easily use 2 leftovers from 100 gram skein. For those who are interested, I do have kits that I put together. Ooh, my thing fell off here. I do have kits that I put together that I sold at ZK, and I will be making more in the coming weeks. I'm kind of trying to catch up right now with the yarn. As far as putting it online and getting kits made and things. I'm trying to I don't know if the word is restock, I guess, the things that sold out at CK and at the farmers market since the end of June. So I will have some kits. I did some 50 gram kits of yak. Usually, most of them were with the natural and then another color. If you are interested in a kit and you don't see it online and you have specific colors that you want, just send me an email and I would be happy to put that together for you. So yeah, so the Spring To It cowl turned out really nice. The second one is hiding. Where did it go? All right, I might have to pause for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, so the second one I wanted to show you, I have not woven in my ends yet, but it is the Sea Glass Hat by Woolen Pine, and I made just a tiny version. Let me show you up close. So the yellow is definitely blowing out there. But this is made with a County Fair mini skein set. It is 6 colors. I'll talk more about that when I get to in the pots, but it's 6 colors, and I dyed these special because the theme for ZK was the County Fair theme. So yeah, so obviously I did not use hardly any of each color out of this kit. You could make lots of projects with a kit like that. We'll talk more about that later when I get to the yarn stuff, but I just wanted to show how they looked together to give an example of what you could do with them, how they blend. So I just made this sea glass hat, but yeah, I think it turned out pretty cute. So what I did, many of you may be familiar with the sea glass tee or the sea glass, I think it's a pullover now too, and there's like a fingering weight and there's a DK weight. Anyway, the idea of it is a paid for pattern, but the general idea of it is that you use up scraps or small amounts, and then it's a 1-by-1 color work, and you kind of change. I think the real pattern wanted you to change every round a different color. Well, I didn't want to weave in that many ends, so what I did is I started with one solid color for the brim, and then I picked 2 that I wanted to do, and I do 2 for about an inch, and then I would keep one of them and switch to a different one, and then keep the new one, switch to a different one, and so on until I got to the top. And I didn't really have a plan, I didn't really have a rhyme or reason to it. I just sort of watched how it was coming out and saying to myself, oh, I like the pink, I want to keep that in longer, or I like the purple, I want that to be the dominant color. So if you do choose to do something like this, you can get the pattern. The pattern actually is free if you sign up for their newsletter, and you can totally make it whatever you want. You don't have to change your color every single round. You could do a main color the whole way through. Like I could have done purple the whole way through and just switched the contrast color. You could have done, you know, any different number of combinations. So, but it is a fun pattern, and I did enjoy making it. I think it would be fun in DK weight as well. So, you know, you could take the numbers and just make them for a different weight based on your gauge, you know, so because it comes in multiple sizes, so you could just pick a different size and try that. So anyway, that is the sea glass hat. And then the last one that is my finished project is, of course, right here by me on Betty Lou. And I love this shawl. Actually, Betty Lou, you'll see, she's got an undergarment on today. She's got 2 shawls on. Ta-da! Just because I keep the mannequin or the dress form, whatever you want to call it. She got kind of dirty. I keep her in my office, and sometimes I have these samples and I don't want to pack them up, so then I just sort of put them on top of each other. I stack them. So anyway, this is the Humlebi shawl. Humlebi means bumblebee in Danish. So it is a big triangular shawl, and the best part is if you look close, you can see the bumblebees and the flowers. So here, right here, there's a row of bumblebees, and then these little flowers that come in the lace pattern that go along. And then there's some, what do you call it, garter sort of design for texture at the bottom. And it actually is a pattern that you cast on from the bottom. So it's like, I don't know, 300, 400 and some stitches that you cast on, and then you actually do a picot cast on. And so that was kind of a lot to start with, but then as you're doing it, you know, you work your way up, so you do the difficult part first, and then the bumblebees, which is kind of fun. Although I will say, before you start the bumblebees, if you try this pattern, make sure that your count is correct, because I tend to be a knitter that kind of wings it a lot, you know, especially with shawls where fit isn't as important. And so I kind of say to myself, oh, I'm kind of close, that works. But when you have a pattern like this, where it really messes up things if you don't have the exact number to start. So I had to kind of rip out and restart several times because I did not do that. Anyway, the pattern writer, it's Fiber Tales, I think is what was listed as the pattern writer. So I'm not sure if that's a team or if it's one person. But they had great tutorials on how to do the bumblebees. And then, you know, once you finish the bumblebees, it's all garter except for the slip stitch. Well, actually it's not. It's like a center double decrease thing in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so this is knit in the Decadent base, the Yak Silk DK. It is, let me see if I can get it right, 60% merino, 20% yak, 20% silk, I want to say. I'm not 100% certain, but it is super drapey. It grew so much when I blocked it. It was really nice. So yeah, so this takes 3 skeins of DK weight yarn. So if you were to do it in, and I want to say, this is the golden snitch colorway that I dye. I want to say that, I can't remember, but I think my Yak Silk is somewhere around 215 to 220 yards per 100 grams. So it's sort of like a light DK. Could be getting this wrong. Maybe it's 250. No, I'm pretty sure it's like 220. Anyway, I'll write it below on the screen because I'm flaky and I can't remember. But yeah, the Humlebi, I love it. It's very beautiful, and I am excited to wear it in the fall when it cools off here in Minnesota. I think it's going to be super cozy, like wear around your shoulders kind of thing. So that will be fabulous. Okay, that is it for my finished objects. I do have a little bit of what I'm calling a ribbit. Ribbit, like ribbit, you know, if you're an experienced knitter, you've heard that before, meaning I decided to rip out several of my projects. And several of they kind of led into a works in progress. So the first one is my Vertices Unite. And that is a pattern by Stephen West. And I started it like almost a year ago. And I had put it down for a long time because I was doing the large size. And the large size, I think, is 5 colors, 5 skeins. You don't use the whole skein of each one, but you use, I would say, half to 2/3 of most of them, if not more. So it's a large shawl. And I had gotten through the first section. It's written, I think, in 5 or 6 sections, and then they kind of all unite, you know, different lines unite. And, and so I'd put it aside, after I had finished a certain section because I was just tired of knitting it. The colors weren't inspiring me. It was just sort of, and I wanted to get some other things done. So I picked it back up after ZK, and when my hand was feeling better, my hands were feeling better, and I started to knit on it. I really enjoy the knit. It was very therapeutic. It's all garter for the most part with short rows here and there, but I didn't like the colors. So the thing about Stephen West patterns, they're always fabulously unique with cool techniques and construction, which makes it really interesting to knit. But sometimes I find it hard because he does use a lot of color. I find it hard to pick something that I will actually wear. So I might have fun making it, but then after I'm like, whoa, this is really vibrant. I do not know what I'm going to wear this with, or this is just too much. So my friend Debbie made a Vertices Unite all in one color, which was really beautiful and very wearable. And I was thinking, so I think I took a picture of where I was, probably not a great picture, but I'll put it up here to show you where I was at. But I decided that I was going to rip out everything that I had done, which was a lot. I want to say it was at least 2 skeins of yarn that I had, 200 grams that I had knit already. And I was going to pick out some different colors to make it more monochromatic, so less stripy. Because although I like knitting stripes, I don't wear very high contrast stripes. I tend to gravitate more towards the monochromatic, different shades of the same color. So what I did, here's a pattern, a picture of Vertices Unite. So you can see it has these different sections you do. So I have a new plan. I hope I like it. I don't know, I started it and I'm sort of thinking, oh, maybe I want to rip this out. So I picked 4 colors instead of 5. I think, yes, all kind of in the pink family. So one of them is Molly Girl yarn in this pink, I think it's called Beauty School Dropout. It's just sort of a blush pink. It's definitely blowing out on the camera. I made the Zorzel shawl. I had 2 skeins that my friend Jen had given me, and I think it's all crazy. And I used one of them in that shawl, but I had another one left. And I do like the shade, and it's kind of, oh boy, I made a mess here. It's kind of neutral in the sense that it kind of, you know, can go with lots of things. So I have that, and then this was one of the colors I used in the other. This is a Berry Fun Yarns retired base called Jewel, which is a 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon base. So it's very similar. If you see, it's like just a shade darker. This one's got like a little bit of a dusty pink to it. So I got those 2, and then I picked also, well, my other 2 are, the rest are all Berry Fun Yarns. This one is a Hyacinth, which is like an 80-20 and like a pale purple. And this one, I don't remember what this one's called. I think this was a one-of-a-kind that I made for my friends one year at CK. But it's sort of like a really pale blue with pops of this pinky purple color. So if I hold these all up together, you can see this is much more neutral than the colors I had originally picked out. So I started it, and I am striping the 2 pinks together. And I thought, oh, these 2 pinks are pretty similar. I bet you they'll look really similar. But look, you can still see how different they are. One is definitely more orangey brown, and one is more pink. So that always fascinates me with colors is that, you know, depending on what you use, if ever you've taken a color theory or color class from anyone, I'm thinking like Andrea Mowry. She used to do one with like fades. If ever you've taken a class, or maybe you haven't taken a class, the colors come out different depending on what they're paired with. So when I just look at these 2 colors as they are, I don't see a huge difference. But as soon as I start to knit them, they look way different. You can definitely see the contrast in those 2. So I'm not sure if I want to keep doing the stripy, or maybe I just want to do each section. So they have these, he has these sections here. I might just want to do each section a solid color. So tell me what you think. Give me your opinion. I want it to be wearable, and you know, he uses 2 different colors here and here, I think. No, he uses 2 different colors in section 1. But they're so similar that you can't really tell the difference. This is a solid color, this is a solid, this is a solid, and then these are 2 contrasty stripies. So I'm sort of contemplating, if I do a stripy section, maybe it would just be like one of these small ones. I don't know. But I do want this shawl because I really like it, and I think it will be super cozy to wear I don't wear a ton of shawls anymore, I feel like, but I'm starting to like the ones that are more like blankets that you can wrap around you when you're like home and knitting and it's cold and you just need an extra layer. So I do want to finish that one. So if you have any opinions for me, or if you've knit Vertices Unite before, I would love to hear what you have to say. Just put a comment below or send me an email. And I better put this back in here or I will lose it. Okay, so that's one of them. The second thing that I'm gonna rip, my ribbit, I actually haven't ripped yet, but I have been contemplating ripping this for a long time. And again, I'm so far along in the project, like Vertices Unite, that I'm just like, oh, do I really want to rip that out? Because I've gone so far already. You know, it's frustrating when you think about how many hours that you maybe have put into making something and then you have to rip it out. However, the downside of not ripping it out is finishing it and then hating it, and then what do you do with it? You give it to a friend, or it sits in your closet forever. So in this case, it is a blanket, or actually two blankets that I am planning on ripping out. So this is my Granny Stripe blanket by Attic 24, or Lucy of Attic 24. And I love the Granny Stripe blanket. I have made it before, I love the pattern. But when I cast on, or hooked on, I don't know what you call it in crochet, for one, I made it way too long. I made it way longer than it needed to be. And for two, my cast on chain is way too tight. And so, yeah, I probably could leave it and it probably would be fine in the end. It might block out a little bit, but like, look here, it almost looks like it has I don't know what you call it, a ruffle, because it's so tight and it's irritating me. So I think this is my plan. I have not ripped it out yet. I also have a northeasterly, forgetting who that designer is, oh, Skeins, I think, started, and that was like DK worsted scraps, and I do like that pattern as well. But I think what I'm learning about myself is that I really should only have one scrappy blanket going at one time. And currently right now I have 5, I think. I have the Granny Stripe, I have the northeasterly, I have a hexagon one, I have a jelly roll one. Like 4. So I have 4 going, plus, and I'll show you my new cast on is also a blanket for my son. But anyway, I have 4 scrappy blankets, and that just seems like too much. I feel like I need to cut back, because then maybe I'll actually get it done. Because whenever I go to do scrappy projects, I'm like, well, I don't know which one to do. Should I do this one or this one or this one? I can't make a choice because there's too many options. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing my hexagon one and my jelly roll one, because I really like both of those. The hexagon one is just a tiny little, it's the barrel blanket, and it's just tiny little hexagons, and I do that every once in a while, and I really want that finished object. It'll be years and years and years before it's done, I'm sure. But I go through phases where I really like to do them. One a day, one a day, one a day. So that is one I'm going to keep. And then my jelly roll blanket I really like, because those are both fingering weight. And the jelly roll blanket is by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. Fun pattern. I love knitting it, and I'm making it with all my pastel colors. So it's I make so much of the section and then I'm done. So what I'm going to do is the jelly roll blanket in particular is, once I do my little section, and maybe I've done my little hexagon on my hexagon blanket, I've done a section on the jelly roll blanket, then all the extra pastel scraps will go into this. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip this out. It's still going to be a Granny Stripe blanket, but I decided I'm going to hold 2 strands of fingering double, or use a DK or worsted single by itself, a single strand. So then I can use all those scraps up, whether they're DK or fingering, and it will be in one big blanket. So I'm gonna rip this out, I'm gonna recast on, and I currently have, I made a magic knot ball. I have one here. And then I'll probably make a magic knot. Well, I don't need to, it's all ready, done. I'll just unwind this into a big ball, and then I'll start over. So I'm not sure what size hook I'm gonna need. I think I have an F, which I think I tend to use for like more of like a DK. I don't know where I put it now. I'm of course going to be losing my things before I need them. Anyway, the kitten will probably help me find it if I dropped it. So I'm going to do that. So that's a ribbit project that will soon be a work in progress. But right now it is sort of like a needle adjacent project. I can't talk today. Okay, the last two works in progress I'm going to talk to you about. One of them is a pair of socks that I've had on the needles since February, and I'm going to show you this one last time because maybe some of you are new viewers and you just have never seen my crazy stripy socks yet. Oh, and of course I stopped. Oh no, I didn't. I thought I stopped in the middle of the needle. But I am not showing you these to you again until they are finished because I have been working on them so long that if you are a regular viewer, you're probably so sick of seeing them and hearing about them that you're like, oh my gosh, fast forward. Anyway, these are my, ooh, I'm getting close. These are my scrappy, stripy socks. Yeah, I only have a couple rows and then I'll be to the heel on the second one. So this is my first one. This self-striping yarn is called the Bell Star and it is by Show Me Yarn. It is an 80-20 blend and I love it very much. And I made a full pair of socks with this for myself. Then I had a little ball left of each and I said, let's make some shorties because I like shorties. So I cast them on, but I cast them on when I was in Hawaii, I think. And I don't know why, I think I often take these socks like this to the farmer's market when I set up because it's super easy for me if it's a vanilla sock and I'm knitting in the round and I'm not doing the heel or the toe. It's super easy for me to just knit and I don't even have to look and I just see the customers coming by and I, you know, when I'm not busy. I can say good morning and I can still knit and you know it's like a party trick. They're like, oh, she's not even looking at her knitting. Then they come over and they ask me about it and so it's a good conversation starter. So I tend to take these there. Anyway, long story shorter is that I forgot that I was supposed to be knitting shorties on my first sock and I got here and I was like, oh shoot, that's not gonna be a shorty and I'm gonna run out of yarn. So I picked out some extra minis. So this is a Cookie Feast mini from the Very Fun Yarns Christmas at the Farm Countdown set last year. And then, of course, I should have, when I was getting low, I should have started fading it in, but I didn't. So I just have a couple other crazy kind of blue colors that go with this bluer one up on top. So anyway, I just pulled some, and it kind of looks ridiculous that it's all, but frankly, I don't care. They are going to still be warm and that part's going to be in my shoe and will be just fine. So, and I was thinking, oh, maybe one of my, like my oldest child, you know, they like to wear crazy socks, but I don't know if that actually will fit them or not because I made these really narrow. I think they're only 60 stitches around on a US 0 because that is what my foot is. It's quite narrow and quite long. I have a size 11 foot. And so, yeah, I think they're just destined to be mine. So that is the Scrappy Stripies that I will not show you until they are done. And I am going to put it on my list to hopefully finish before I come to you next. And then the last thing is a new cast on that I just cast on. Oh goodness, why do I always stop in the middle of a row? Why do we do that to ourselves? What a mess. Let me see what I did here. You know, there's like 4 stitches left on my needles. Why would I do that? Somebody must have interrupted me and I must have had to stop quickly. Maybe it was the kitten. That could be. Mr. Tobble does that. So this is, for all purposes, it is a miter square blanket, but the actual pattern is called, I wrote it down, the Kibu Summer Beach Blanket by Morris and Sons. The pattern was free on Ravelry, and the reason I went to Ravelry for it is because I knew I wanted to make a blanket. So last year, my first child graduated, left for college. I made them a blanket. I made them a granny striped blanket. which turned out fabulous. I made it with Wool of the Andes Superwash. I will put a magic picture in to show you in case you were not around on the podcast when I did finish that. And they love it. They use it all the time at college. But I wanted to make something different. So it's a temperature blanket based on the year the child was born. So the first one, when I made the granny stripe, I did so many little, if you've ever made a granny stripe before, little like, what they call double crochet clusters for each day. Like I did some math in the beginning. And it ended up being like the first 10 months of their life because I couldn't quite, I kind of did my maths wrong, as they say, my maths wrong. And I didn't want to make it super humongous. So I stopped before and I figured, oh, that's fine. They don't care. Probably won't even remember that it's a temperature blanket. Maybe they will. So for my second oldest, Ian, he told me, so he saw me making the blanket for my oldest, and he said he would like it in shades of blue and grays. Yeah, mostly blues and grays, because that's what he likes. So he didn't really care the pattern, but I picked this pattern because I really like the idea of the individual squares, because it is, you know, I can do, so each day we'll have one square. So if you've never made a temperature blanket before, TLC Crafts, I think that's the maker, designer that talks about it a lot. I will put a link below, I'll find it. But she has done videos about making temperature blankets, and basically what you do is you take a period of time, and based on the temperature you assign a color to a certain chunk of temperature. So for instance, in Minnesota, when I did Ian's first year of life, I wrote down the temperatures. They ranged from like -4 or -5, it was more than that, -4, let's just say, to 95 or 96. So I put them in chunks based on the yarn. I knew I wanted to do superwash Wool of the Andes again because it's nice and warm, it's wool, and it washes well in a machine. So I put probably like 7 degrees-ish, but I did take into account there was a section where there were a lot more within this area, so I made the degrees for each color a little bit shorter. So maybe like I did 5 degrees of temperatures or 6 degrees versus 9 or 10 based on the season. So I kind of looked at it and then I tried to figure it out so that I would have a variety of colors and not end up with the same color square for days and days and days. So Ian was born in November and I've started it, and I think what I'm going to do, because it will offer me a little bit more variety as far as where to put my colors, is I started in the middle and I'm going to work my way out. Now, I didn't realize this until after, see if you can see that, I had done, so see those two, they go very nicely towards the middle with the seam, and these are the same. So I'm sort of contemplating, I think I'm going to, ripping out this little square here and redoing it, but I'm not sure if I can or not. I might just have to let it, because I thought it'd be really nice if the, you know, it would kind of like be an X in the middle of the blanket to show the center. But in all honesty, he will probably never notice that it's the middle, and he won't care, so why go through all that trouble? So anyway, yep, it's a basic miter square blanket, and I'm just going day by day. I have my list of temperatures, and I pick the next one, I look at the color, and then I highlight it when I'm done, and I move on to the next one. So it doesn't take me too long to do a square, but it's like 40 stitches across. Like I said, free pattern, so I'm not giving away any secret sauce or anything, but it's 40 stitches. So then I'll just keep going around and adding the different squares until it gets to be the size that I want. And I did do some math to figure out approximately, so I did one square as a swatch, and I weighed it. Each square for me was taking 9 grams of yarn, and then I measured the square and I did some math, kind of like how big I wanted it to be, to figure out how much yarn to order, because Knit Picks was having a sale on Wool of the Andes recently, and so I just ordered it all at the same time. So I figured out how many grams I needed of each color based on the temperature and all that jazz. So yeah, that is the Kibu Summer Beach Blanket by Morris & Sons. It is not the last one. I have one more, and this is the one I've been working on the most. This is the So Basic Sweater, oh, again, stitches off the needles, that I'm making for my husband. This too I started in February and put it aside because it was not something I wanted to knit. But right now I'm kind of was in the mood to just knit around and around, so I pulled it back out and I actually made a lot of progress. Imagine that. You actually knit on it and it makes progress. Wow. So this is where I was. Let's see if you can see. There's my little flower stitch marker, and that is where I am now. So I'm getting to the point where I'm going to need to have him try it on soon to see. Oh, you can kind of see that I changed skeins there. Not too bad, but you can see it when I hold it up on the, it's a lot more yellow on the top. That's all right. It's still great. He won't even notice it, I bet. So I'm alternating skeins. I'm doing helical knitting and I'm alternating skeins. Even though I dyed it, the colors in the skeins, they definitely came out different because this is an indigo dye, which generally means that I dyed something first and then I dipped it in indigo. And whenever I do that, each skein is so unique at how it soaks up the yarn and how it distributes the blue color when it meshes with the color already on the skein. So you can kind of see this one has way more yellowy green. It picked up less of the blue than this one. So they're quite different, even though I dyed them at the same time in the same vat. So anyway, I'm alternating with helical knitting, and what else could I tell you about it? It is sport weight. It is in my Berry Tough Sport colorway, which is an 80-20 merino nylon blend. It's very nice yarn to work with. I think that's it. I really like it. I kind of want to see, you know, I always measure, like when I make something, a sweater for someone else, I'll ask them to measure their favorite sweater or sweatshirt that they have from like the underarm to the end, so I kind of know how long they like to wear it, right? Because everybody likes it a little bit different, even though the pattern says you're supposed to knit it X number of inches or centimeters. You know, you want to you're making it for somebody, so you want it to be the length that they like. So the thing that I find though is when I do that is this knit sweater may actually fall differently in the armpit area than a store-bought sweater or whatever favorite sweatshirt that you're measuring. So the distance from here to the end isn't always the same. So it is nice when you do a top-down sweater like that to be able to try it on and to kind of just make sure, you know, it's fitting the way they want it to. Plus, I want to take into consideration that it's a lot of fabric, and even though I did a swatch and I measured my swatch, I know from history when you knit with superwash yarn and the weight of a large sweater that it's going to drape way more and it's going to stretch just because of the nature of superwash yarn. So yeah, so I'm hoping it's not too many more inches before I do the ribbing. This is colorway is, I think this is, it's either seaweed or under the sea, and I don't have any of this color right now, but it's dyed with marigolds, and my marigolds are growing, and I will very likely be dyeing some more of this towards the end of the season this year when the marigolds are in full bloom, so probably August. Okay, well that is it, and I have been talking for 46 minutes. So thank you for sticking around if you are still with me. This is going to be a bit of a long episode just because I haven't been here in a while. So feel free to chop it up and watch it in segments if that works for you. The one last thing that I want to share with you before I end this video is some in the pots. So I did mention that I did a lot of dyeing for Zombie Knit Apocalypse. Part of that is I created a special some special colorways based on the county fair theme. So I did two. Right now I don't have, well, I have this first one. I have both on Very Tough Sock, which is 80/20, and then I have it on All Star DK, which is 100% superwash merino. And this is called Snow Cone. So it has the bright blue and some like cherry red and a little bit of purpley grape in there. So that's called Snow Cone. I really like that one. I have not knit anything up other than the hat in it yet, but that's really pretty. And then this one also love. It's called Carnival Lights. And it has a very light blue base. And then it has some deep yellowy orange, some bright red speckles. So it kind of reminded me of, you know, lights at the carnival when you're at the rides. So I did these two colors, and I think I'm trying to pace myself because it is a lot to put yarn back online when you have a big show and you are trying to take inventory and all that jazz. And I started working on Advent countdown kits or holiday countdown kits, winter countdown kits today. So I still have lots of things going on, but I do have some of these both on, this one is on DK and on fingering. This one I just have on DK right now. So if you don't see it in the shop and you're interested in it, please let me know, because I don't always put all my stock online at this time of the year, because I do go to the Rochester Farmers Market every Saturday, at least most Saturdays. I won't be at the market now for 3 weeks or so. I have some family obligations coming up, so I won't be back until August, I think it's the 13th, but let me know. I'd be happy to get some of this for you. And if you need a sweater quantity or anything like that, always let me know. I'm getting better at writing down my recipes so that I can repeat them. Some colors, depending on how I dye them, they do replicate a lot easier than others. So as long as you're okay with it not being exactly the same, a lot of the colors I can replicate, especially solid colors like golden snitch, things that are immersion dye. They tend to maybe be a touch shade different depending on the dye stuff, how much water was in it, that kind of thing. But they do generally are pretty easy. It's the variegated that's a little harder to repeat exactly, because my recipe says sprinkle, you know, lac powder over the top. So if I'm really heavy-handed one day with the lac powder, there's a lot more speckles. If I'm less heavy-handed, then there are less speckles. So I don't like have an exact measuring kind of thing for all my colors, just because that's not me and it sucks the fun out of it for me. So, but anyway, long story short, that is always possible, so let me know. And then the other kit I just wanted to show you close was that I did these mini skein sets. Now I did also do, so this is 20 grams each, so there's 120 grams, 480 yards in this county fair set. I do also have some 50 gram sets of the snow cone with the blue raspberry. I had some of these, but I sold them all at the market. So I will probably be making more of those because that was very popular. But so you have snow cone, blue raspberry, strawberry milkshake, because you know we always have a strawberry milkshake when you go to the fair, grapey grape, carnival lights, and I think this is called pina colada. Yeah. So that is finally it. I am done sharing everything that I can think of to share with you. So thank you so much for sticking with me and for watching. If you're new to the channel, thank you for checking me out. And please be sure to give me the thumbs up below if you liked this video and you want to see more like it. Or to also hit the subscribe button so that you can receive, or the bell helps you receive updates. The subscribe is just also great feedback to me, telling me that you are enjoying the videos and you are following what is going on here at the farm and with very fun yarns. So thank you, thank you. Feel free to leave messages below. I love to chat with viewers. So take care, everybody. Until next time, happy knitting. Bye-bye.